In a dimly lit room, the leader of a rival gang, Victor, overhears the news of Jimin approaching Mr. Hwang. His eyes narrow, the dark room amplifying the intensity of his emotions. Rival gang member, whispering, "Boss. Park Jimin is making a move." Seems desperate enough to seek Hwang's help. Victor's face contorts with a mixture of anger and opportunity. In a fit of rage, he sweeps a table clean, sending papers and objects crashing to the floor. Victor, snarling, that insolent A, thinks he can waltz back into the game with Hwang's help? Not on my watch. His henchman, sensing the brewing storm, inches cautiously toward Victor. Rival gang member, what's the plan, boss? In a display of fury, Victor grabs a photograph of Wine and Mr. Hwang from the scattered items on the table, his eyes burning with a sinister intent. Victor, pointing at the photograph, this is our leverage. Hwang values his daughter more than anything. If he won't willingly join forces with Jimin, we'll force his hand with us. Otherwise dead. Victor's anger morphs into a wicked grin as he formulates a plan that promises both revenge and power. Rival gang member, looking at the photograph, what do you want us to do, boss? Victor, leaning over the table, we eliminate Hwang. Make it look like an accident if he doesn't join us. And then, I took his daughter. The henchmen exchange uneasy glances, their loyalty tested by the malevolent nature of Victor's plan. Rival gang lieutenant, raising an eyebrow, you're talking about making her a slave? Victor, smirking, oh, it won't be that simple. We'll break Hwang, take away everything he holds dear, and then offer him a deal he can't refuse. It's time for him to remember who he used to be. The room falls into a chilling silence as the gang members absorb the gravity of Victor's plan, the photograph of Wine and Mr. Hwang serving as a haunting reminder of the impending darkness. The city sprawls beneath them as Jimin and Jungkook stand on the rooftop, the moon casting a soft glow over the landscape. Jungkook, curious, Jimin, what's with the espionage? Jimin chuckles, watching the man. Jimin's eyes remain fixed on Mr. Hwang's house, a mix of contemplation and intrigue in his gaze. Jungkook adjusts the angle of the binoculars Jimin holds in his hand. Jungkook, the man's taking a stroll in the garden. Why does the spy thriller vibes hedge? Jimin, cryptic, there's something about her. I don't know. I can't put my finger on it. Jungkook, teasing, the great and heartless Park Jimin, struck by Cupid's arrow? Jimin rolls his eyes, don't be ridiculous. Jungkook, grinning, I've seen you brood over contracts, not people. What's different this time? Jimin sighs, she's Hwang's daughter. Jungkook, raising an eyebrow, the same Hwang you wanted back in the business? Jimin, nodding, yeah. And you know our unspoken rule, no dating family of those who work for us. Jungkook, leaning in, but Hwang isn't working for you anymore. So, talk to her. Get to know her. Jimin, skeptical, it's not that simple, Kook. We're talking about setting up the drug network. I need him back. Jungkook, grinning mischievously, then marry her. Jimin chokes on his own breath, what? Jungkook laughs, I'm serious, man. It's a win-win. You get Hwang back as father-in-law, that girl as wife. And you don't break any rules. Jimin, rubbing his temples, marrying for business? Sounds like a terrible romantic comedy plot. Jungkook, raising his glass, hey, desperate times call for desperate measures. And who knows, maybe you'll actually like her. Jimin, you're insane, you know that? Jungkook, grinning, maybe. But desperate times, my friend. Desperate times. The serene night is shattered by an ominous presence as Victor and his gang approach Mr. Hwang's house. The air thickens with tension as they prepare to execute their sinister plan. The door bursts open, and chaos ensues as Victor and his men storm into Mr. Hwang's house. Vian, awakened by the commotion, rushes to the living room. Mr. Hwang, Victor. Vian, alarmed, Dad, what's happening? Mr. Hwang, grim determination, Vian, go. Run as fast as you can. Vian hesitates for a moment, her eyes reflecting a mix of fear and confusion. Mr. Hwang, in an act of protectiveness, positions himself between Vian and the intruders. Mr. Hwang fights valiantly, his years of experience in a world long left behind brought to the forefront. However, the odds are against him as Victor and his men overwhelm him. Victor, smirking, you can't escape your past, Hwang. Despite Mr. Hwang's fierce resistance, he is eventually subdued. Vian, witnessing her father's struggle, makes a swift decision. Vian, voice shaking, "I'm sorry, Dad." With a heavy heart, she turns and bolts out of the house, escaping into the night as fast as her legs can carry her. As Vian races through the darkened streets, fear gripping her, Victor wastes no time. He instructs his men to pursue her, their footsteps echoing through the silence of the night. Victor, cold laughter, hunt her down. "I want my SL at way." NOWWW. Victor and his gang tie Mr. Hwang to a chair, a sinister satisfaction in their eyes. Victor, leaning in, "You made a mistake, Hwang. Now, you'll pay the price. You have to join US or your dead daughter choice is yours, Dumba." The room falls into an eerie silence as Mr. Hwang, bound and helpless, contemplates the dire consequences of a past he thought he had left behind. Vian races through the dimly lit streets, her breaths coming in rapid gasps as the pounding of her heart echoes in her ears. Fear and adrenaline course through her veins, propelling her forward. Victor's men, shadowy figures cloaked in darkness, pursue Vian through the labyrinth of narrow alleys and deserted streets. Their footsteps are muffled, blending with the night's ominous silence. Vian, driven by fear and desperation, darts into a narrow alleyway, hoping to evade her pursuers. The echo of footsteps grows distant for a moment, and she takes a moment to catch her breath. Suddenly, the stillness shatters as Victor's men close in on Vian's location. The chase intensifies, and Vian resumes her sprint, her heart pounding louder with each passing second. With limited options, Vian spots an abandoned building and makes a split-second decision. She slips through a half-open door, hoping to find refuge within the decaying walls. The abandoned building is shrouded in darkness as Vian navigates its airy corridors. Victor's men cautiously enter, their eyes scanning the shadows for any sign of movement. Vian crouches behind a stack of old crates, her breath shallow as she watches Victor's men search the area. The tension is palpable, each moment feeling like an eternity. Sensing an opportunity, Vian makes a bold move. She silently climbs a rickety staircase, reaching the rooftop of the abandoned building. From this vantage point, she surveys the surroundings, plotting her next move. Below, Victor's men, undeterred, continue their search within the dark corridors of the abandoned building. The night becomes a deadly game of cat and mouse as Vian strategizes her escape from the relentless pursuit. As Victor's men close in on Vian, the tension is thick in the air. Suddenly, the atmosphere shifts as the dimly lit building becomes the stage for a cinematic showdown. In a dramatic entrance, Jimin steps into the fray. His presence is a sudden disruption, and the henchmen turn, their confidence momentarily shaken. Jimin, calmly, "Let her go," piece of SHT. Without warning, the first punch is thrown. Jimin's movements are a blur as he effortlessly dodges and counters, each strike precise and calculated. Jimin, in a seamless display of martial prowess, delivers a series of lightning-fast punches and kicks. The sound of impact echoes through the abandoned building, the choreography of the fight resembling a dance of controlled chaos. The henchmen, caught off guard by Jimin's skill, struggle to keep up. But Jimin, unfazed, turns the tables with each powerful move. In a dazzling sequence, Jimin disarms one of the henchmen, snatching a gun from their grasp. The room falls into a momentary silence as Jimin, now armed, stares down the remaining threats. Jimin, coldly, "You should have picked an easier target." The air becomes charged with a different kind of intensity as the fight takes a deadly turn. Jimin, using the gun with lethal precision, incapacitates the remaining henchmen. Gunshots ring out in the confined space, each shot echoing like a heartbeat. Jimin maneuvers through the chaos, a force of nature bringing swift justice to those who sought to harm. The last henchman falls, defeated, as Jimin stands amidst the aftermath. Jimin, glancing at Vian, "Are you okay, princess?" Vian, still processing the cinematic whirlwind she witnessed, nods silently. The night, once filled with danger, now settles into an uneasy calm as Jimin stands in the dimly lit space. As the dust settles after the intense confrontation, Vian, shaken and tearful. Vian, crying out, "Dad! My dad, he's in danger!" Jimin wastes no time. He grabs Vian's hand, and together they rush through the darkened streets towards Mr. Hwang's house. Vian's sobs echo in the quiet night. Upon reaching the house, a chilling silence greets them. The door hangs ajar, a somber indication of the tragedy that unfolded within. Vian, voice trembling, "Dad." Jimin and Vian enter the living room to a heart-wrenching sight. Mr. Hwang, gravely injured, lies on the floor. Vian rushes to his side, her hands trembling as she tries to staunch the bleeding. Vian, sobbing, "Dad, no." Jimin, recognizing the severity of the situation, kneels beside Mr. Hwang. Vian clings to her father, her tears falling like rain. Mr. Hwang, weakly, Jimin, please, in return for years of service to the Park family, promise me, Jimin. You will protect my Vian. Jimin, voice breaking, "I promise, uncle." As the echoes of Mr. Hwang's last moments linger in the air, Jimin springs into action. He lifts Mr. Hwang carefully, a mix of determination and desperation in his eyes. "Jimin, urgently, we need to get him to the hospital, Vian." Vian, tear-stained and frightened, nods in silent agreement. Together, they rush Mr. Hwang to the car, the engine roaring to life as they speed towards the nearest hospital. Jimin bursts into the emergency room, cradling Mr. Hwang in his arms. The medical staff rushes to the aid, guided by the urgency in Jimin's eyes. Jimin, panicked, "Help him, doctor! Doctor!" Vian paces the waiting room, her heart heavy with worry. Jimin stands nearby, his usual stoic demeanor replaced by vulnerability that reveals the depth of his concern. Vian, whispering, "Will he be okay?" Jimin, softly, "He'll make it. The doctors are doing everything they can." As dawn breaks, a tired but relieved doctor approaches Jimin and Vian in the waiting room. "Doctor," smiling, "he's stable now. We managed to control the bleeding. It was touch and go, but he's a fighter." Vian's eyes light up with a mix of gratitude and relief. Jimin, usually composed, shows a rare glimpse of emotion as he exhales a breath he didn't realize he was holding. "Vian, can I meet him?" "Doctor, we will shift him to the general ward, then you can see him." Inside Mr. Hwang's hospital room, the beeping of machines is a reassuring melody. Vian sits by her father's side, holding his hand, while Jimin stands quietly at the foot of the bed. Vian, whispering, "Thank you. If it weren't for you." Jimin, softly, "I promise to protect him. And you, princess." In the soft glow of daylight filtering through the hospital window, Mr. Hwang begins to stir. His eyes flutter open, adjusting to the sterile surroundings. Vian, who has been keeping a vigil by his side, leans in with concern. Vian, whispering, "Dad, are you okay?" Mr. Hwang, weakly, "Vian." Vian's eyes fill with tears of relief as she grips her father's hand. The air is charged with a mix of emotions as Mr. Hwang regains full consciousness. Mr. Hwang, looking at Jimin, you saved us." Jimin, nodding, "I couldn't let anything happen to you, uncle." Mr. Hwang, seriously, "Jimin, I owe you more than I can repay. Vian's safety means everything to me." Jimin, respectfully, "I'm just glad she's okay." Mr. Hwang, pausing, "There's something I want to ask of you, Jimin." Vian and Jimin exchange curious glances as Mr. Hwang takes a deep breath. Mr. Hwang, with conviction, "Jimin, I trust you. I trust you with Vian's life. The only way I can ensure her safety is if I know she's in capable hands. This was the 5th attack of this year. I don't think I am capable enough to ensure her safety anymore. I want you to marry my daughter, Jimin." Vian's eyes widen in surprise, and Jimin is momentarily taken aback by the unexpected proposal.